All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac. I just noticed for some reason my computer's not actually plugged in, but I am plugged into the router. So Jordan Klein is happy yet concerned. This will be fun. This will be fun for producer Jordan. I'm joined by Rinpack. I'm not even supposed to be here today because Adam Scherer calling out sick and not even hungover. That's the sad thing. When I see Adam call out sick, I expect him to be hungover. It's very disappointing. I think he's actually sick. Ryan, how's it been? We haven't done shows for a hot minute here. We've juggled the weekend schedule with some of these different sports. We may not connect again until after the NFL playoffs. So I'm glad I got to do a show with you.
I'm excited. I know it's been a minute. You were out traveling. It's been, I think, a couple weeks since we've linked up again. But an exciting, I want to say, 6-game slate, potential finals preview, Clippers, Boston on the slate tonight. So I'm looking forward to some NBA DFS as usual.
It should be a good one. It should be an exciting one. Very front-loaded slate. Everything is all kind of jumbled in the first 90 minutes. 2 7 o'clock, 2 7:30, and 8 and an 8:30, which means the live before lock show gonna be hopping. So Eric and Greg will take you down the last hour, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break as we do a crossover, and then 7:15 you'll be getting the NFL live before lock show, because who wants to miss Thursday night football preseason style here in week 17? That's going to be fun. My recommendation, watch basketball and then start taking decorations down, perhaps writing some of those Christmas thank yous, and go ahead and skip the NFL. But we're going to get on in here. Everybody give us a like. It helps us out. You can subscribe as well. That's great. We're up to 85,100 subscribers. That always helps us in the YouTube algorithm along with the like. So we would enjoy that. We'll talk a little bit about BetMGM and the risk-free promotion they have there. I'll tell you how it worked out for me. But let's get into some of the games here, Ryan. We're going to go with Cleveland at Indiana here. We've got 5.5-point favorites here for Cleveland. Indiana, one of the more friendly defenses. They're very generous. Be it at home or on the road. A couple injuries to watch out for. Tyrese Halliburton dealing with a sore knee or a bruised knee. That would be his right knee. Shetty Osman, questionable. He's been in and out of the rotation. And then the rest of the guys for Cleveland that are listed as questionable, Dean Wade, Dylan Windler, Robin Lopez, back of the bench guys. And Cleveland already runs a relatively tight rotation anyway. This really doesn't do a whole lot. Some of those guys have been out for a while. But I do like the Kevin Love rebound props. We'll talk about that. Take us through Cleveland here. How you feeling? Is everything hot in Cleveland?
So the Cleveland matchup against Indiana is always going to be an interesting one to target. When you think of the Cavs, you think of Mitchell and Garland, just the backcourt here. 8-6 and 8K for Mitchell and Garland on DraftKings makes a lot of sense. Even at 8-9 and 8-4 on FanDuel, both have tournament winning upside against this Pacers matchup. I have no interest if you want to get up. I have interest if you want to get up off the field. I can't argue against that whatsoever. The front court gets interesting, obviously, with Mobley and Allen. I like going to them more on FanDuel, where they get those blocks upside for these guys, especially Mobley now sub 7K. The minutes have been a little bit lower than last year, it feels like. Obviously, with Donovan Mitchell in the picture here, less usage for a guy like Evan Mobley, who I still think is very talented. And I think this is kind of the price point we'll get for the Cavs front court for the foreseeable future, as this team is fully healthy. Mobley and Allen, 6-9 and 7-3 on FanDuel. I like them there. Mobley all the way down to $6,200 on DraftKings. Certainly worth taking some chances with him there. You really are hoping for 40 fantasy points, and Mobley certainly has that in his bag. And Jared Allen, 6,300. I have no issues going any one of those four Cavs players if you want to get above the field. Now, things get a little interesting with the rest of the team. Kevin Love is getting some ownership over there on DK at 4,100. He certainly has the upside to put up mid-20 fantasy points in high teens minutes, and that's a really efficient outcome for Kevin Love. But I'm looking to pivot off of that ownership. I know it's Kevin Love. We're getting him at a nice kind of lower price than we're usually seeing him. But 4,800 on FanDuel, I really can't support that price tag. I think I'd be willing to look elsewhere. The rest of the guys, Karis LeVert, Lamar Stevens, Osman's out. A couple more extra minutes potentially go to a guy like Isaac Okoro, who's never really in play. So it's the Cavs. They're kind of like big four they have in Mobley, Allen, and Garland and Mitchell. I have no issues getting above the field on any one of those four guys. I think they're in a great spot against Indiana.
Yeah, I besmirched the good name of Isaac Okoro a couple weekends ago when I was doing the show with Matt LaMarca, and Okoro came out and had a nice fantasy game. I think he had like 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 or 5 combined blocks and steals. That's what you're hoping for. You can also get some pretty empty box scores from him. He's someone I almost just X'd out of the player pool. I noticed a couple industry articles out there have been talking about him as a cheapie, especially since he moved into the starting rotation. I just think it's a trap to let other gamers go to. Someone like that. When you see a player like that does have the ability to put up some upside, albeit incredibly irregularly, way less than like a PJ Tucker or Torrey Craig, I kind of liken them to someone like Jared Vanderbilt, right? Someone who's, oh my God, they had a monster game. Well, if it happens on a big slate, it doesn't matter. And if it happens on a small slate, more often than not, that kind of game only happens every other week if they're lucky. Let other people carry that risk of a bad game. That's usually how I approach some of these more volatile players. Do you feel similarly like that with Okoro or some of perhaps an over-owned Kevin Love?
I think Okoro is such a bottom tier type of situation. He's like the Javonte Green type of player where they can certainly play a lot of minutes, but they have such a limited pathway of putting up a successful tournament outcome. Like, if you really want to take down a tournament on this type of slate with the number of studs we have, you want Okoro to put up high 20s fantasy points. And I don't know how many times Okoro has put up high fantasy points in his 3 or 4 year career now. I think this guy's like the 5th overall pick, and it's just really difficult for me to go to Okoro. But Kevin Love, more interest there. I really struggle going to Okoro. So he's one of those guys when I see getting a lot of ownership, if at all, I just try to steer away. I know maybe there are limited sub 4K options on this slate, but even Okoro, that's way too gross for me. And nothing against the guy, but it's really tough to go to him.
Okay, let's move along here. We'll talk about some more heavily popular players here. Not that many really coming at the moment from the Indiana side here. It looks like Miles Turner on DK is the highest at about 7%. So I took this about 15 minutes ago. So hopefully it shouldn't have changed too dramatically. We're waiting to see what's going to happen there with Halliburton, but there are some pretty intriguing matchups out there that have some impressive fantasy totals and some fantasy goodness. So this game's kind of like, I'm not going to get mad if people come into my lineups, but otherwise I'm not really excited. If Halliburton is out, then you can look to someone like Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard probably will see a little bit more. Buddy Hield gets some trickle-down effect on field goal attempts. And then TJ McConnell, I don't think we'll see him start, but he is absolutely capable of running the second unit, and then he can just fill in whatever they need him to do. You would need him to facilitate. You need him to take a couple, space the floor a little bit, handle the ball, drive and dish. He can do all of that, but there's a reason he's a backup. Anything you want to mention on the Pacers in particular, or are there other matchups you'd like to get to?
The Pacers, I think, comes down to news here. I mean, it's so tough to pinpoint the situation now until we have some more clarity on what's going to happen on the Pacers side of things, specifically over there with Halliburton, with him being questionable. And the starting lineup there is going to be definitely something to keep an eye on and what ends up happening. I do think Nembhard will become a solid play if Halliburton is out, and I think we can certainly go there. Might expect a little bit more usage for guys like Ben Mathurin off the bench and Buddy Hield potentially. So Halliburton being questionable is such a key point for this team. That might open up some value for us to target, especially Nembhard. I do think will become a solid option to go to. So, but if Halliburton plays, he certainly has tournament upside. He's a classified fantasy stud at that price tag. So keep an eye on that situation. But right now, very tough to get significantly above the field on anyone. If Halliburton plays, it won't be hard to get above the field on a guy like him. DraftKings at 9,200 seems certainly more viable, where he gets penalized less for turnovers. FanDuel 9,600, that seems awfully difficult. $6,800 Miles Turner, kind of in play across the board, even at 6,400 on DraftKings. No issues going to him, even at $25 on Yahoo. I think Turner probably would be my favorite pacer to target. But if Halliburton's out, it will be Nembhard at that $4,500 price tag and $4,900 on DraftKings and FanDuel respectively. I think Nembhard becomes a solid foundational building block on this slate. And yes, that was done on purpose.
All right, let's hit our next game here, because this one there's going to be a lot to talk about. So you'll want all of the time possible, Ryan. 238 implied total, basically a pick 'em here. You've got Oklahoma City Thunder heading into the Queen City, taking on the Charlotte Hornets. We have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's just absolutely amazing, averaging 50 fantasy points per game this season, 1.45 fantasy points per minute. That is in that second echelon, not quite the MVP category that Doncic and Embiid and Giannis and Jokic are all in, but it's well above the 1.1 we're trying to look for from the solid players and the 1.2 from the borderline elite players. So definitely want to look to him. Salary may vary on the other sites. That'll help dictate who we're looking for. And then, not to bury the lead, Alex Pokashevsky is out for at least 2 months. James Robinson Earl is, or is it Earl Robinson? I can't remember off the top of my head. He's out for another week or two as well. So we're looking at potentially a Mike Muscala front court here. I mean, what's not fun about Mike Muscala? Why are we talking about this? Well, the Hornets front court is so bad defensively and so bad rebounding wise. We could find some potential value or upside with players like that. Kelly Oubre all but assuredly out for Charlotte. He's dealing with the sprained left hand. He is a lefty, so that's important to note. And then we may get Dennis Smith Jr. back. Has he played since he missed his 2 months or so? No, he has not. So he last played on November 23rd. He played 2 games, and then prior to that, he had played since November 10th. Even if he comes back, probably going to be a little bit rusty. And then the last person was Nick Richards, who potentially is out. He has missed the last 2 games. He's questionable. Going to go through warmups and see how his ankle is feeling. Take it away, Ryan. There's lots to talk about here. Start us off with the visitors. Take us through the Thunder here.
Yeah, the Thunder is an interesting situation here. Obviously, with Pokusevski out, it's tough to trust Mark Daigneault, what he's going to do with that front court rotation. Last time we saw Muscala do a solid fantasy outcome here. I am very skeptical with what Mark Daigneault is going to do here. There's also Jalen Williams. That's Jaylin Williams. I think he's been recalled from the G League. He certainly could eat up some front court minutes. Right now, Darius Bazley is getting a lot of ownership on both sides, where it's going to force me to make a decision at that $3K salary. I do think he's going to certainly be in the rotation, but what do those minutes look like? Is he a for sure starter? My guess is as good as yours. It's really tough to know what Mark Daigneault is going to do, but with this Vegas total, it's tough not to find a way to just put him in your lineups at that salary. SGA comes in at a very solid stud play, 10-1 and 10-8 on DK and FanDuel. You certainly think it's worth getting above the field. A guy like him against Charlotte certainly has 60 fantasy point upside. SGA $48 on Yahoo, certainly a solid option there. I always feel confident in SGA, Giddey, and Dort's minutes. And now with Pokusevski hurt, it does open up some sort of potential stability in the front court. But until I see it, I'm willing to wait just because of how difficult this rotation has been to predict outside of Giddey, Dort, and SGA. Another guy who's been getting more consistent minutes of late has been Jalen Williams. That's Jalen Williams, the wing player for OKC. He comes in at 5K and 5.6, 5K on DK. I certainly think you can take some chances with him. He's been playing a bit much better of late, and I do think he's quite talented where he could be able to carve out some of his own usage over time while sharing the court with a guy like SGA and Giddey as well going forward. But I want to keep an eye on the starting lineup. Muscala or Bazley, certainly tournament options, but proceed with caution. Going to be some ownership in this front court option and going to be a key decision point on what that ends up looking like once this game starts.
All right, so trivia over under here for Lujan Dortz. His friends call him Lou. I haven't met him, so I guess I got to call him Lujan Dortz here. Do you think he has more NBA points or less NBA points tonight than field goal attempts? So his last few games, I'll do the field goal attempts first and the points. 9-9, 10-10, 11-14, 8-13, 14-24. 7-3, 11-12, 10-7, 16-11. Yikes! This is like a more productive and better defensive version of Jarrett Vanderbilt, I guess. What happened to the Dort's offense in the bubble? Did it's what happens in the bubble stay in the bubble?
Well, no, Dort was very good defensively in the bubble. There's no denying that. He had this huge resurgence offensively when SGA was out last year.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, I don't know. I think Dort can find a way against the Charlotte team to get more points than field goal attempts.
Just throwing it out there. All right, take us to Charlotte here again. Kelly Oubre most likely going to be out. I see chat has mentioned the over on LaMelo threes. Jake Swales has. The last game was the first time since in a month. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First time in 9 games that ball had less than 4 makes from behind the arc, and he had 3. So that's a wager that usually you can find at 3.5. It's not a guarantee, but it's been paying off handsomely. How are you feeling about these folks from a DFS perspective? I'm going to assume that Dennis Smith and Nick Richards really aren't going to eat into anybody's minutes. That gives us a shorter rotation, but still enough bodies that they don't have to play extreme minutes.
Yeah, and the OKC side of things, LaMelo Ball has been awesome of late, 9.7. Really love that 9K price tag on FanDuel, $39 on Yahoo. Seems like an amazing pay-up option. He's, I think, you can argue he's $1,000 too cheap on FanDuel for sure, the way he's been playing of late. Expect Terry Rozier to take a lot of shots as well, where you get the 3-point bonus on DraftKings, 7,300. Makes for a ton of sense. With Nick Richards potentially playing, that's going to eliminate Mark Williams' minutes, in my opinion. So I do think if he's Nick Richards is ruled in, I don't think Mark Williams plays that much, or if at all. Now, Dennis Smith Jr. being back, I expect him to get a lot of the backup point guard duty. I don't know how many minutes he'll share with LaMelo Ball, since a lot of the time LaMelo Ball was hurt. Dennis Smith Jr. was also hurt. So it'll be a completely different rotation with the Charlotte team, and we'll see what Steve Clifford ends up doing. Gordon Hayward, I think you can definitely play at $6K and $6,300. I have no issues getting above the field, and a guy like him who certainly can shoot a high volume of shot attempts on the Charlotte team against OKC. It's a great team to target across the board. A little skeptical on PJ Washington and Plumlee's ownership, just because I think there are potential players are priced around their price range that have higher ceilings. Seems like a good way to pivot off that ownership in tournaments, but another team that looks really strong to target across the board. The ownership, rightfully so. They're getting a lot of these players are getting double-digit ownerships. So I have no issues. I know Kelly O is out. Jalen McDaniels has been playing a bit more. He's certainly a guy who I'm willing to get under the field on. Not the best usage player. You're really hoping for a lot of blocks and steals and rebounds, just like his brother, against sharing the court with these high usage players.
All righty. It doesn't look like, I mean, if we look at FanDuel, you got Ball, PJ Washington, Gordon Hayward are 35, 30, and 25 projected ownership. On DK, it's Washington 25. You're right. Plumlee's kind of up there at 19, and then you got Ball at 14. I think our next run kind of cleans some of that up there and probably knocks down Plumlee just a little bit as the rest of the news starts to come in throughout the rest of the NBA. We'll be seeing, or what are we, 10 or 15 minutes away from the next injury report to kind of come trickling in. So anything else from our 2 7:00 games?
Now, a bunch of great tournament options, especially in this OKC Charlotte game. I think it'll be a key component of nailing the right players in this matchup, especially the OKC frontcourt rotation. What that's going to look like. There's certainly a tournament winner on that OKC frontcourt side of things.
All right. So we are brought to you by BetMGM. I'm going to tell you about the risk-free wager they have, the opportunity for you to get in and also get 2 months of Stokastic. I want to point out that this 2 months, maybe going down to 1 month, maybe going down to no months. So don't wait, act now. And if for those of you that are traveling potentially for the remainder of the holidays and you're going to a state that does have sports wagering, you can create an account. You can make a $10 bet on MGM and you will then qualify for the 2 months of Stokastic. Remember, it's where you're located, not your home state. So like we all used to be able to go to Vegas and wager even when it was illegal everywhere else except Atlantic City. Those rules still apply. They still apply. So how does it work? Well, your first bet is up to $1,000 risk-free bet. Okay, that sounds exciting. Let's talk about that in just a sec. What do you need to do? Well, you need to be logged into Stokastic. You don't have to have an active subscription, but when you're logged in Stokastic, if you click on the BetMGM button, or if you click on the link below us in the YouTube description here, while you're logged into Stokastic, it'll bring up the landing page for BetMGM. There'll be a big button there that says something about MGM. You click on that, that tags you with our referral code and sends you over to them. Do not hit the back button, because then you're going to miss out on this, right? If you leave screens or do whatever, then you're not going to get this bonus, right? You go in, create your BetMGM accounts for new users only. You can put in somewhere between 10 and whatever you want to put in. Your first wager is going to be risk-free. So whatever it is, you want to bet 10, you want to bet 20, you want to bet 1,000, that's going to be risk-free. You make that bet, you win or lose. Once it settles, you're going to get a coupon code that'll give you 2 free months of BetMGM. How do I know this? Because I did the risk-free bet. I did it for 1,000. I lost. What happened when I lost? I got 5 $200 bet tickets that I had 7 days to put in. I ended up winning 3 of the 5 back, so I'm down $350. But the one nice thing is, when all of a sudden my account went to 0, well, BetMGM started making me other deposit offers that they were doing 100% matches on. Win-win. Too little tax harvesting here at the end of the year. I'll get it back. I feel good about it, but it's fun. So basically, I think what it does is it just takes whatever your wager was if you lose, divides by 5, gives you those as bets, and then whatever the remainder is, if any, that becomes a 6th bet, is what the fine print looked like. So it worked out. You want to do this while there's still football, while there's a lot of sports going on. Don't wait too long. 1, you're going to miss out on the 2 months of Stokastic if you do, and 2, it's harder to do when there's less things to wager on. You're not going to find the ones that you want to. You're going to feel a little bit forced. All right, Ryan, back to you here. Let's go to Memphis at Toronto. This one is Memphis favored by 2.5, 229 over under here. We've got some questionables with the man, myth, and legend, Fred VanVleet, dealing with the sore back. You've got Christian Koloko dealing with the sore knee, and then Precious Achiuwa dealing with the sore ankle. Nobody really looks like they're out for Memphis. So this one is understandable why they are favored by a bucket. What do you think about this game? Do you think Fred VanVleet and Precious are going to play tonight? Does that impact you with what you're doing with Memphis? And talk about Memphis. They have a couple good, 1 or 2 good players on there.
Yeah, this team is coming off a couple of disappointing losses, back-to-back losses against a shorthanded Phoenix team, a shorthanded Warriors team. So now they're going up to Toronto. John Morant's their cover boy. And John Morant's 10K and 10-1. And I definitely think he's worth taking some shots in tournaments. But you can make a case to come under the field. I think Shea and LaMelo are better plays than John Morant tonight, just because Desmond Bane's back in the picture. Desmond Bane's minutes should be getting north above 30 minutes consistently going forward. That's just going to take away usage from Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Dillon Brooks. And that kind of leads me to the case. I really want to play Desmond Bane at this elevated price, not elevated price tag, at 7K, even at $6,100 on FanDuel. I think he's a solid option to go to today. I think Desmond Bane was amazing. He was kind of like playing like another most improved player candidate like he was last year to start off this season before he got hurt. But I think Bane should be a solid option to get above the field on at DraftKings. You can even make a case on FanDuel as well. By far my favorite Grizzly to go to. Jaren Jackson Jr., my God, I get so pissed off at this guy. He just never keeps his hands to himself. And if this guy could stay out of foul trouble, he should be an 8K player pretty easily. But man, for Memphis to succeed, like to have like championship aspirations, he needs to like average less fouls. And like he hasn't shown that ability, and it's always frustrating. This guy I'm consistently above the field on, and as gross as it sounds, I will be above the field on him yet again. Just because he has that upside, especially on FanDuel. Like his ceiling is honestly like 7-8 block games, and he can certainly pull that off if he doesn't get in foul trouble. Bane, Triple J, John Morant. Dillon Brooks kind of is priced out for me. Seems like his ceiling is a little difficult to get to. Dillon Brooks, I believe, is Canadian, and he is going to Toronto. So that is some narrative if you want to look for one for Dillon Brooks.
All right. Moving to the other side, Ryan, we've got a phenomenal, or playing phenomenally, is one Pascal Siakam. he has been just impressive. His last 4 games, all above 50 fantasy points. These have been some real humdingers. There was an overtime game in there, but aside from that, he's been getting to the line like nobody's business. His last 4 games, this is free throw attempts, chat, 15, 8, 18, and 11. That's pretty impressive. The passing is there. He's amazing with that. The rebounding usually doesn't get double digits. Usually he's kind of in like that Joel Embiid category, 8 or 9. It always feels like they get more, but then you go look at the box score and you're like, oh, I thought he'd have more rebounds than that. But the ball's in his hand so much and he gets so many assists. I think he's a phenomenal play. If Van Vliet is out, who do you want to boost? Probably Siakam, Trent, Malachi Flynn, and maybe the semi-disappointing Scotty Barnes, the mercurial Scotty Barnes. He's going through some growing pains in his second year.
Yeah, if Van Vliet is out, the biggest boost, in my opinion, is Gary Trent Jr. I expect those minutes to go up a decent amount, and he's going to become a solid option on DraftKings where you get that 3-point bonus. $17 on Yahoo certainly becomes a strong play there. 6,400 on FanDuel. FanDuel kind of like was aggressive with this, and they were like, okay, if Van Vliet's out, we're just going to price him up. So kudos to them. I think you can certainly still play him at that price tag, but obviously 4,900 on DraftKings seems a little bit more appealing for his player profile. I think Malachi Flynn's going to get some ownership as well. I would kind of stay away if he does. If Van Vliet's out, there could be a way Banton could play some backup point guard as well. So Nick Nurse could change that up on us. Vachua plays, that just hurts the front court and backup front court, that being Thad Young, Chris Boucher. I do think those guys obviously not the greatest appealing guys on a night-to-night basis. They kind of get ruled out of play if Achua's back in the picture. Siakam looks great. I think you can certainly play Siakam the way things stand. He looks even better with Van Vliet out. Same goes for OG and Scotty Barnes. Would prefer Scotty to OG. I think Scotty comes in at 6,700, 8,200 on FanDuel. FanDuel was ready for this Van Vliet situation. So they're definitely going to get a lot lower ownership than on DraftKings, but I do think you can make certain cases to play OG and Scotty. OG only 7,200 there. I think this Toronto team, if Van Vliet's out, very appealing across the board. Favorable price tags on Yahoo as well, where you can get OG for Scotty Barnes only for $24. OG a bit more expensive there. So this Toronto team certainly an awesome team to go to if Van Vliet's out. If Van Vliet's in, a little difficult across the board. I think you can certainly play Van Vliet at 7,600 on DraftKings, but the pathway to like that tournament ceiling is a little bit inhibited there.
All right, Cyber Real Estate threw in a super chat here. I'm going to assume he's talking about the Toronto game here. Who are the top 2 players getting mom's home court cooking today before this game? You had mentioned someone had Canadian ties.
Who are the top 2 players that's mom's home court? Well, Dylan Brooks is from Mississauga, and I think he certainly probably knows the Toronto area pretty well. So he's certainly in play for the hometown narrative. And I'm trying to think who else has the hometown narrative game happening. There's like the revenge game for Christian Wood if you want to go later in the night. But am I missing another one off the top of my head? I know Boucher is Canadian as well, but he's always home. So.
Right. That's the one person who always is top of mind.
I think Reggie Jackson played college at Boston College. So he's going back to Boston. So I think that's the other one.
Oh, Brandon
Clark is Canadian. There you go. That's another Canadian guy. Summer League MVP, Brandon Clark.
I'm going to have to vote Brandon Clark then. Let's see where did Brandon Clark grow up? He is from Vancouver, British Columbia. So the other side of the other country. Side.
Vancouver doesn't even consider Toronto part of Canada here.
No. Vancouver thinks they're a Seattle suburb.
Have you been there?
Vancouver? Yeah, lots of times when I lived in Seattle.
I've been to Toronto. Toronto's a very underrated city, in my opinion.
I have never been to Toronto. I've been to Niagara Falls, Canadian side. That's as close to Toronto as I've been.
I've been to Niagara Falls 18 times.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How do you know 18 times? Do you do it every year or something?
I used to live in upstate New York, and that was like a very easy tourist trip to make out there. And then I'm so sick and tired of that place. Like when I was a little kid, we've gone there so many times. I am like the waterfalls the same time, same way each single time I go. It's a different view from the Canadian side. It's a better view, but oh man, I've been there so many times.
That's good. That's good. And Anush, I agree. Vancouver better than Seattle because you can play daily fantasy sports in Vancouver. You can't in Seattle. Enough is enough. All right. Anything else from this one? We head to our other 7:30 game.
I mean, exciting Canadian narratives. Now that might boost up Brandon Clark and Dylan Brooks for me.
Is that worth a little thumbs up there?
A little thumbs up. Yeah, I have no issues doing that. If you want to buy into the little holiday hometown narrative, makes the most sense.
Little 6 to 8%. That's reasonable. That's that's good. That's good. All right. Clippers at Boston. Malcolm Brogdon, questionable with an illness, as is Blake Griffin. John Wall available, as is Kawhi Leonard. And Paul George. Boston favored by 6.5 here. I heard one Eric Lindquist talking about betting the Clippers side of things here. He was fired up to take the money line. Would you dabble on this, or do you just want to watch this game? It doesn't feel like there's a lot of fantasy goodness that can come from.
In terms of
betting, come from this, but how to pick it, I don't know.
In terms of betting, the Clippers have been my one of my go-to live bet teams when Kawhi and PG have been healthy, and it's been very lucrative. Over the past couple weeks. I don't mind the Clippers plus 6.5. This Clippers team is, I think, top to bottom, including coach, all the way to the 15th man on the roster, better team than Boston. And I definitely think about last year. Phoenix went to the finals and they were fantastic throughout the regular season, and then they had the collapse in the playoffs. It wouldn't shock me if that happens to Boston. But this Clippers team, on paper, my pick to win the finals. When Kawhi Leonard's healthy, he doesn't lose. He just hasn't lost. He has won the championship almost every year besides the year in the bubble. He's always there, and I think people forget that. And this Clippers team is really, really damn good. And I have no issues going to that plus 6.5. And shout out to Isaiah, who was all over the Syracuse plus 10.5 as they cashed that, and I made myself a nice little evening bucks heading into the night.
Yeah, Isaiah pumps out quite a few wagers there. It's pretty impressive that he has so many. But it's fun seeing all of our guys do the different wagers. We'll talk about Bet Pro, but we got a lot of good ways for you guys to come in and check out things other than just using OddsShopper, which is of course free to everybody. That's the awesome sister site. The projections there are powered, of course, by the sister site, the OddsShopper with the Stokastic projections. All right, our other 7:30 game, bringing us back, the Clippers, Boston. Everybody relatively healthy. We know. Could we see a slightly tighter rotation? Maybe not putting quite as heavy playoff minutes on everybody, but less of the riffraff setting foot on the court. I'm looking at you, Peyton Pritchard. I'm looking at you, Luke Kennard. You feel good about the starters in this game? Anybody in particular you want to call out on the Clippers from a DFS perspective?
In a DFS perspective, this team is very difficult to go to when this whole team is healthy, right? Very rare do we get this team healthy across the board. And there's been a price correction, in my opinion, to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard for this instance. PG down to 8,400, 7,800 for Kawhi. And Kawhi's minutes have been going up. I prefer the savings in Kawhi compared to PG. And Kawhi's in play at $8,200 on FanDuel. He's my preferred Clipper to go to than Paul George. And they played this Boston team a couple of weeks ago as Boston was on the front end of an LA back-to-back. And they kind of whooped Boston's ass. They won by 20. Not to say that's going to happen again, but this Clippers team handled them pretty easily. And Paul George was impressive. No one was really outstanding. Kawhi Leonard was pretty good in his minutes playing there. So this Clippers team is tough to go to, but certainly one of them can put up a tournament winning upside. I think it's Kawhi. And everyone else on the team, I have very tough for me to get above the field on any one of these players. I know some of them are cheap, but you really are hoping for an outlier performance and some unexpected extra usage to fall their way. John Wall's back in the picture. I mean, it's really difficult. It's PG and Kawhi. Zubac is getting some ownership, but I'm even with him. I'd be willing to look elsewhere. It's tough to go to these the rest of the team outside of PG and Kawhi, just because every given night the usage is going to be split up so different, and it could be a different closing lineup. We just haven't seen these guys play a ton of games together yet. It's probably less than 10, it feels like. Once we get a little bit more data and more of a sample size of what closing lineups look like, what the usage looks like, and has the price corrects when this team is fully healthy, then we'll have a better idea of how to approach this Clippers team going forward.
So you did mention your just a touch of betting here, the live betting. Is there a certain number you're kind of hoping for? Maybe they go down early. You can get them +8, +9.
Oh, see, live betting is not always something I recommend. It really is like on a one-off basis for this Clippers team. So the last time I bet this Clippers team, they said Van Vliet got hurt, and I expected Van Vliet not to return, so I got bailed out against that Toronto matchup. And the Clippers at that time were +1.5 when Van Vliet went out. And I mean, like on a head-to-head basis, I thought the Clippers were just a better team heading into that matchup. And so it worked out for me as the Clippers won by double digits. But it's really got to look at like certain like things. Like I'd take a look at like if field goal percentages in game of what that looks like. If the team's like shooting unsustainably hot from the outside, and like in the first half, I expect the team to make adjustments, especially Ty Lue. He's really grown as a head coach and really good in-game, makes really good in-game adjustments. So it's just not the class of the team. I just think Ty Lue is well prepared to like overcome long deficits and taking advantage of finding holes in the opponent's defense. So the Clippers team, I think if we were to have this matchup in March or April, you can make a case it should be like +3.5, +4.5. I just don't think the books have gotten enough data on this Clippers team going forward.
Okay, and that's something that's good because we hear things, we want to follow along with some of our favorite contributors here that are super smart, but some of these context does matter, and that the live betting, I do like the calling out of the nuance, because you can pick your spots and feel good, or you can just have fun. And if somebody's down, you're watching the Wizards or whatever, and they're down 14, you throw $1 or $2 on their money line, and if they come back, you get like $30. You're like, oh, that was fun. Or you lit $1 or $2 on fire. It is what it is. It is what it is. There's the entertainment version of live betting, or there are these, I'm picking my spot, I was waiting for this, variance got them down too low or up to whatever it was. It's early enough in the game, I still want to hit it again, or I want to do whatever. Right? Those are some different ways of looking at it. So yeah, this is all stuff you can pick up from the various Stokastic content, and of course the Stokastic Discord. All righty. Anything else from this one? We're going to continue maneuvering along here.
Yeah, no, it's a good time to go on to the Boston side.
Oh, you want to do Boston? It's going to be the same answer, won't it be? So it's tough to pick them. I mean, Jason Tatum flirting for a hot minute. He was kind of the front runner in the MVP race. I think that might be Luka at this point, and then Jokic is going to have to put up an answer. So this is.
I think KD is getting disrespected in this guy.
And then Giannis is saying, "Hey, don't forget about me," right? So this is a crowded field here.
I mean, this is the first time we've gotten like all these teams healthy across the board in a while. And I mean, KD should be up there as well. That team, and I don't know what Jock Bond's Coach of the Year odds are, but I would be looking to potentially put a wager on that if that's even possible. I know he was named their full-time head coach, but that team has been playing amazing of late, and I think they deserve a lot of credit as they got over their whole TMZ drama situation in the first 10 games with Steve Nash. But on the Boston side of things, I do think Tatum and Brown certainly tournament upside. We just got word Blake Griffin's out. He was kind of out of the rotation with Rob Williams back in the picture. Man, Rob Williams minutes are tough to pinpoint, and I don't know if this is a matchup where we see more Rob Williams minutes. I certainly can see Al Horford just being on the court more. There's an ability for this team to go small with Grant Williams, so I do think there's a lot of ways where Rob Williams can fail. I like that matchup last time against Houston, an up-and-down matchup where Şengün was the front court guy here, and we can certainly see a situation where the Clippers go small here. So Tatum and Brown, obviously 10-3, 9-1. They're elevated price tags. Marcus Smart's going to come in a little bit under own. He's going to be playing a ton of minutes. Expect mid to high 30s minutes for Marcus Smart. 6K and 6'3". Certainly has tournament upside. This Boston team's getting a lot more ownership on FanDuel than on DraftKings just because of their price points. they're okay to go to. I think I'll come in under the field on the secondary guys, like that being Al Horford, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon. Maybe a little bit above the field on a guy like Marcus Smart, and maybe with the field on Tatum and Brown. The way things stand, it's a tough matchup against the other side. I know this is Kawhi and PG. They're much older when they were all NBA defensive guys, but they're still pretty at least above average defenders on the other side, and above average defensive team in the Clippers. So it's a situation where it's a great NBA matchup, but in terms of DFS, that kind of muddies the situation for us.
All right. Now I get to talk about some cool stuff. One, we've got cool guy Ryan here, Rinpack. He's just flossing. He's showing off all the cool stuff around his basement there. We've also got 3 free days of Stokastic. So let's celebrate that by hitting the like button. 2,000 people in here, 200 likes. No bueno. No bueno. I can do ad reads for 20 minutes straight to run us up into live before lock unless we get some more likes there. So there's your chance. Holiday miracle. I talk about sports between now and 6 o'clock. We'll see. Let's get those likes up. But in the meantime, you guys can join for free. If you're not yet a user of Stokastic, you can use the link that is in the description of this YouTube video. You get a risk-free trial, 3 full days of everything NBA, all NBA. The projections for ownership, the player projections, the 1v1 tool, the lineup generator, which is an amazing thing that continually evolves and is turning into quite the popular talking point in Slack. And as you are building out your lineups, you have the top stacks tool, etc. Everything, all the good stuff. You also get access to the Discord during this time. It's a great way to give everything a try for free. So check that out for free. I don't know what else to say. It's free. This is good. It's a freemium offer. All right, back to the fun. Let's see, what game did I put in order here? New York at San Antonio. We have RJ Barrett is going to be out for about a week, maybe 2. He is dealing with a lacerated finger. We also got news that Devin Vassell is out, which is important because that provides a whole bunch of opportunities for the rest of the Spurs. We know that that's the wrong one. Keldon Johnson is in, as is Doug McDermott. Still waiting on Jalen Brunson. Of course, New York coming off that amazing overtime game featuring Luka Doncic. We'll talk about Doncic in the next one here, but everybody's had a bit of a breather here. A lot of them played some heavy minutes. What is your read? Do you think Brunson plays tonight? How do you want to run that quick analysis first? You can set the parameter for yours.
Gun to my head, I think they should sit Brunson, but it's Tom Thibodeau. I think he has like his own personal hit list where he just wants to kill his players. But I don't think Brunson plays tonight. That's just a personal guess, more or less, just because I don't know if he went through practice or shoot around this morning. I don't know if
Brandon Katz in chat, who I was having some fun with yesterday. Brandon, hope you're all good. No hard feelings. He did say Brunson missed shoot around.
Okay, yeah. So I don't think he plays, and that's going to make quickly a great play. But there's another key injury situation as RJ Barrett's out with a finger injury, and we saw Quentin Grimes, Miles McBride play all the minutes in the world and then some. And I don't know what Cam Reddish did to Tom Thibodeau. He certainly didn't crack the rotation once RJ Barrett went out. They don't have a true wing player. The next guy is Evan Fournier. He hasn't seen the court in a minute. So this is going to be a tight rotation against a very cake San Antonio Spurs defense. So expect Randall to get all the minutes in the world, Grimes to get all the minutes in the world quickly, Miles McBride. And Derrick Rose is going to certainly play some minutes. I don't know how many, but it's really difficult to see why he won't play like the other guys. He needs some minutes, but he doesn't really care. So with this tight rotation, it certainly puts in a spot where we can take advantage of this in terms of DFS. Really like playing the elevated price tag for Randall as he's going to get a lot of usage quickly at 5K, even at 6K for him. I think he's certainly a solid option to go to. You can certainly play McBride at that ownership. I think so. 3,200, 4,500. He's still in play on FanDuel. Quentin Grimes played a ton of minutes. He's at 6,200. He's at 5,600 on FanDuel and DraftKings. If he's going to run a tight rotation again across the board, I'm willing to go to this Knicks team above the field. I have no issues getting to a couple Knicks on my teams tonight. I think they're in a great spot. It also wouldn't shock me if he decides to play some random guy some extra minutes coming off the bench, but that's anti-Thibs. Like, get to these Knicks players, and if Brunson's out, everyone looks even better in my opinion across the board. Their Yahoo price tags look great. They look great on FanDuel. They look great on DraftKings. There's no other way to really explain this situation if Brunson's out.
Yeah, it's our later news. I suspect we will have. I think we'll have that before 7:00. We'll see. We should have it before the 7:30 games because
there's some contradicting opinions with the shoot around news, and we'll probably get some updates there. It's a San Antonio matchup. I definitely think.
It would seem to lean towards caution. So I was running a Twitter search to see what I could find. It seems like there was like somebody said at one point in time that he wasn't there, and then everybody was running with that little quote there, but it wasn't from one of the beat writers. So sorry. Oh, good. EMac talking basketball. Hope he's not playing hockey tonight. Oh, I'm playing hockey tonight. I play hockey every night. That's a nice little DFS sport. Shout out to the Stokastic projections. That's been a nice little ROI booster for me. I was never really into my process. I actually have a nice process for this. I don't have to do anything. I just get all of our downloads. I've played this for 4 years now. I've got everything set up where I want it. I'm literally just pushing a button, and I'm putting my thumb on the scale for a few other things, but I'm very confident in there. Plus, when you're playing in some of the lower dollar contests, not everybody down there has projections and they don't have optimizers and stuff. So that's a lot of fun. But I embrace it because I like baseball. Hockey's a lot like baseball. I embrace the variance. I really, really like that. The chaos of the NFL? No, that isn't variance. That's freaking chaos. This stuff, variance, I can handle it. You get enough slates. Hockey usually get 2 or 3 every night. It's a lot of fun. If you guys do have a full membership at Stochastic and you're not playing hockey, try it out. Don't wait for just the NBA All-Star breaks. Try it out. Have some fun with it. Test it in the low dollar stuff. It's fun on FanDuel. It's even fun on Yahoo. They've got some unique 2-goalie stuff over there on Yahoo. Different scoring formats on each of the sites. Check it out. I'm just telling you. Plus, with our channel giving us all the alerts in Discord that I need, I can play basketball and still deal with all that crazy news because I know they're going to tell me if a goalie was scratched or something happened. So just say.
Yeah, we just got some confirmation news. Brogdon is out and Van Vliet has been ruled out. So expect a projections update. And we touched on that situation for Van Vliet. Everyone on Toronto, especially Gary Trent, should get a lot of more usage in minutes his way.
Achua's out as well.
Achua's out, so expect a similar front court rotation going forward there. But with Brogdon out, Derek White's minutes certainly could go up. Now the situation here is I don't know if Peyton Pritchard is going to play. So this might put Derek White in a position to play a lot more minutes than he usually does because they don't really have another backup true guard. I mean, obviously Marcus Smart can play some backup point, but Derek White's minutes look a lot safer than they usually have with no Malcolm Brogdon here.
All right. I see we missed super chat here. Sorry, Abram. Top 3 FanDuel centers. Let's finish up the last game and then we'll do that. I'm gonna take a little screenshot here of it so I have that before it disappears. All right. Take us through the Spurs side of things here. What are you feeling now that we know that Vassell's out? How much fervor do you have for the remaining Spurs?
I definitely have some interest across the board here for the Spurs team, that being Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones, even Jeremy Sochan. He's been playing like a lottery pick of late. I know he was heavily owned last time out. I think this is for real. Jeremy Sochan was someone who I was skeptical heading into that slate, and he's been playing much better of late as he's been starting, getting more minutes. He has some sneaky ball handling and distribution ability as well, facilitating and getting other players involved. So a lot of those skill set of why he was a lottery pick is translating slowly for the Spurs team. So I like going to Keldon for sure. I think getting above the field on a guy like Keldon makes a lot of sense. The Knicks matchup really doesn't scare me whatsoever. Trey Jones certainly makes for a solid option. I think the Spurs team is one of the teams coming in a little bit under owned. So I want to find some spots here. With Vassell out, you can get some more minutes for a guy like Josh Richardson, maybe Malachi Branham, Doug McDermott, all those, Stanley Johnson, and Romeo Langford. I expect all those guys to get a little bit of uptick of minutes. Not a clear guy who I think is going to get the most minutes because Pop can certainly rotate that around. So it's going to be difficult to go there. So I'm going to just like count on the starters to get a little bit more usage, that being Keldon and Trey. Jakob Poeltl's minutes have slowly been going up, but still, I would love to roster him if he was going to play full minutes at this price tag. Look, he's 5'7", and he 6,700. He was like a 7K player on DraftKings when he was playing 30 plus minutes, but those minutes have certainly, coming back from injury, have not gone all the way back up there. It's worth taking some chances there if this is the game where we get Poeltl to play 30 plus minutes, but buyer beware type of situation here where I'm not so sure on what that minute ceiling looks like for Jakob Poeltl, therefore just capping his fantasy upside.
All right. So Texas being so toxic in chat. He's correcting us. He never correct the host. But he's correcting. It's Devin Vassell. And I know that. I know it's Vassell. But
Devin Vassell was my pick for most improved player, but the Spurs have been winning games. But
yeah. All righty. You ready for the hammer?
I am.
All right. Did you know Luka Doncic scored 110.75 DraftKings points and 105.2 FanDuel points? I went and looked this up. So in the history of the NBA, so that's the highest score since DFS was created. In the history of NBA, Michael Jordan had 112 DraftKings points game that happened in overtime. In the FanDuel scoring format, Doncic is fifth all time. Hakeem Olajuwon had 120.4 and a 112 game. That 120.4 was in double overtime. The 112 was in regulation. And then Shaq had a 107 fantasy point game in regulation as well. On that FanDuel side, only Jordan did not have double-digit blocks in his effort. He had one. Doncic had one. Those other guys had I think two of them had 11 in one of the games. I think it was Olajuwon had 15. So that adds up at 3 points per on FanDuel. But that's pretty darn impressive that you have to go all the way back into those 80s games. And then 4 of the 5 games were overtime or double overtime as well. So pretty cool here. That was just beyond the pale, what he was doing. And the final thing of Zoe did it in overtime. He hit his 49.5 PRA in the third quarter. He finished that up before the end of the third quarter. Because after that, I went to bed and then I looked and I'm like, oh, this game's going to be over as I was watching it on my phone in the fourth quarter. And I put my phone down and then I looked like 15 minutes later to see what had happened. It's like the game's still going on. What happened? So I'm trying to scroll back through the play-by-play to see how they made the comeback.
No, that was an insane game. Yeah, that's the most fantasy points in like the modern NBA DFS era, and it was awesome to just watch like happen over time. Fortunately, I can walk away saying I was above.
What about the Wilt game? Yeah, the Wilt would have been higher. This was as far back as StatMuse went. So I don't know at what point they've cut it off. I think it was since the ABA merger, and I think Wilt's stuff happened before the current version of the NBA. So sorry.
Yeah, chat's wilding today.
It's what?
Chat is wilding.
They seem to go crazy when I'm on, and not always in a good way, but we shall see. So let's hit the visiting side first. We've got Eric Gordon is going to be available to play. You've got Porter, Green, Şengün. Who else is there? Jabari Smith, but they're going against Dallas, one of the slowest paced teams in the league. Does anybody stand out here for Houston for you? And Abram, I'll get your super chat in just a sec here before we sign off.
Yeah, on the Houston side of things, Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., always these guys come into the play of their tournament upside. I like Green savings at 6,600 compared to Porter Jr. On DraftKings, 6,900 for FanDuel. I certainly think an option to get above the field on a guy like him. Alfred Şengün, 5,900 on DraftKings, like that price tag, where you can only play one center on FanDuel at 6,800. a little less so. But this team, Jabari Smith Jr., as his play has been much better of late, and I like getting above the field. I've been above the field on him over the past couple of weeks, and I don't think that's going to be any different today for me. I like going to Jabari Smith Jr. at 5K. I know he hasn't been as good as advertised, but I do think at some point this should break through for him. Jabari Smith Jr., I like that price tag on DraftKings for him. KJ Martin got a lot of ownership last time as there was no Eric Gordon. I think now we can look to pivot type of situation. And in a late slate play, Ty Washington is getting a lot more minutes. I do think he's a talented rookie. So keep an eye on him for future like mini slates or showdown slates. I do think he has fantasy upside within him if given the appropriate minutes. If there is some sort of foul trouble for the Houston backcourt, as he has surpassed Deshaun Nix in the rotation. But not the greatest tournament appeal, just really Jalen Green across the board. If you get to some Kevin Porter Jr., I wouldn't fault you. It's just, like you said, EMac, the pace is just not the greatest in this situation here.
All right, and then wrapping up here with Dallas. So the interesting thing about Doncic, it's a small enough slate that we're really worried a little bit about raw points. We also want to keep in mind that there's enough value that you can get to Doncic. He doesn't seem to be the end-all be-all. I don't have the boom bust tool up, but earlier today, he had a 20% chance of being in the DK optimal, and it was 12% on FanDuel. FanDuel, a little different salary, a little different scoring, and it doesn't favor him as much with the lack of blocks and steals. So the optimal, remember, that's like the best of everything based off the median projections, and then they run that through some simulations and scenarios, et cetera. You don't have to have the optimal lineup to win. It's just kind of saying, how often are they going to be the best play you could have had? That's not super high on FanDuel, but I think we can still go there. How do you want to approach Doncic tonight? What's he going to do for an encore? Is anything possible? And then I guess Christian Wood, Spencer Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway kind of round out the last of the Mavs.
God damn it. I was really hoping they would price him like 13K or something like that to make it more of a decision point. But I expect Doncic's ownership to be on the higher side of things. I do think a lot of like the subway riders, the toilet shitters who build those lineups, I think they'll definitely find a way to get Luka in their lineup. And that reason alone, I think Luka's a great play to go to. Certainly there's some value to get him there. And I can't argue against you if you want to play Luka, but I think I'd be coming a little bit under the field. I mean, I'll take the under on 60 points. I mean, it's just as simple as that. He's just not gonna drop 60 again, in my opinion. If he does, it'll burn me. I'll tell you that. But it's Luka Doncic. I'm just finding reasons not to play him at elevated ownership than usual. Christian Wood would be my preferred Mav to go to. He's been playing a lot more minutes. I like going to Christian Wood on both sides, 7-9 and 8,300. I think 7-9 on DraftKings where you're multi-position eligibility, where you can play two centers, certainly in play. Even $29 on Yahoo seems a pretty awesome play there. Certainly getting a lot more ownership there. Tim Hardaway Jr., a little too expensive for my liking across the board. Don't mind that $17 price tag on Yahoo if you want to play him. But that's really about it. Reggie Bullock gets an honorable mention where you get the 3-point bonus in a Houston spot. He can certainly knock down 5 or 6 threes. Dinwiddie continues to disappoint. He's at 6'6" and 6'5". Certainly has tournament upside against Houston. This whole team, there could certainly be a couple Mavs that are sneaky here in this Houston matchup. But that's really about it. It's the Luka show. And whenever you're playing with Luka, there's always a little bit of a limited pathway of getting that ceiling. But in a Houston spot, certainly carves the path out for someone to have an outlier fantasy game, in my opinion. So it is certainly worthwhile taking some tournament shots across the board here, but no one that really sticks out outside of Christian Wood, in my opinion.
All right. So top 3 centers here on DraftKings to answer that, or probably on FanDuel to answer that super chat. There's no pure and let's put it this way, Jokic and Embiid aren't on the slate. So DraftKings or FanDuel today almost looks like DraftKings. Their top 5 point projected centers are all power forward eligible as well. So we have a ton of flexibility. But we're usually pushing to say, Siakam and Randall and Wood, if you can play them at power forward, clearly play them at power forward. But I think they're decent as centers. Jared Allen also now a center. I think he and Mobley are actually intriguing. If we're looking at just the pure centers, it's going to be Mason Plumlee has the best point per dollar. He's just 6,400. it gets a little tougher to really get excited about him. And then I don't like the matchup for Miles Turner, but I would be okay with Jakob Poeltl. And then to answer who is the most popular, again, these guys are all power. First three are power forward eligible. You've got PJ Washington, Randall, and Mobley all around 25-30%. You get down to Muscala, who is the punt play du jour. He is 21%. So that's kind of bracketing for you the FanDuel centers. I would try to do whatever I can to get Siakam and or Randall in my lineup and go from there. Let me see. I think Jordan just messaged me. We've got one more super chat from Zachary or Kalian. Hopefully I said that right. Lose my Armenian street cred there. Would you go with Brown? I'm assuming Jaylen Brown and Hayward, or SGA and McDermott?
I think Jaylen Brown and Hayward, I think they have a better upside of getting you 90, 95 fantasy points than SGA and McDermott.
All right. So
90, 95 might be too high. I think 80 even. I think you're more likely to get out of Brown and Hayward than SGA and McDermott, I think.
All right. With that, we're going to get on out of here. You got Eric and Greg coming up next with NBA Live Before Lock. Then at 7:15, you're going to get Dave Loughran and I think Neil Orfield tonight on NFL Live Before Lock. I believe that is our pairing, or Matt Savoca could be working in. Either way, you're going to be covered with all of the goodness as we head towards DFS glory. With that, gamers, good luck.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody landing on the Stokastic Hall of Fame this week, and we got some big ones. You want to get involved? We got you. You want to get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value? You want to get inducted into the Hall of Fame, have us do all the bragging for you, and see your name in bright lights? We got you. Just go to Stokastic.com/avatar. Download the profile pic at Stokastic.com/avatar and use it wherever it is you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, doesn't matter. When you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Doesn't matter how much or how little. Just meet those qualifications and you tweet at Stokastic HOF. You're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and you're getting right here inducted into the Hall of Fame. We kick it off in a big way with Short Gamer TV. Merry Christmas to me at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Monster $100,000 win there. Little showdown action between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders. Our biggest one of the week. Congrats to you, Short Gamer TV. And then our own Jake Hari had Lane Peterson crossed off in my crunches yesterday until Slim Cliffy, great NHL analyst, you should pay attention to what he does, made me rethink it on the NHL show. Instead, I included him and it worked out at 0.77 ownership. Little 5K first place win for Jake there. And Kevin Cutler. Let's see my name in lights. They're in it, fella. Laffy D, best tools in the trade by far. First out of 397,000. Makes the Eagles' loss easier to swallow. I get. For you, it does. Not for me, but congrats, Kevin. That's an awesome win out of a massive field. And Jansen White had my best finish ever in a 150 max tonight. Stokastic Hall of Fame. Thanks for constantly helping me improve how I play. And he mentions all the NBA boys. 125 to Jansen White right there in a 150 max. Followed up by TWA 4CY? Twafercy? I don't know. Thanks for all you guys do day in and day out with a $400 victory there. We'll keep it going to Shelly B. 500, only second day using Fantasy Cruncher. I knew I was going to lose or break even on the small tournaments like I usually do. Then I see that I'm first place in the tournament. Like, what? Thank you. Congrats, Shelly. That's awesome. Nice to find a little surprise like that. And then free month of Stokastic Plus for first place. Win courtesy of Stokastic Hall of Fame. Yes, please. Thanks to Greg and Eric, even though supposedly he's off Twitter now for a short time. Spencer getting the win there, getting the free month as well, and got my first NBA takedown in the $5 single entry last night. Listen to you guys daily. Thank you. Who is that? Rocksteady247 with the $500 win there. And we close it out with two more here. We got Michael Urban. Thanks to the Stokastic fam for all the great content. Not sure this qualifies me for the free month, but wanted to say thanks either way. Keep up the great work, gang. Congrats, Michael. A little $550 win there. And Diesel, OZB. Forgot to post this, but hit this on Thursday night. Forgot about, or how about that free month? A little 750 in the 10K Thursday NBA shot. Congratulations to all of you guys. Remember, Stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame if you're rocking the avatar. Get the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Get up here. You've now all been inducted, and welcome back to you guys.
What is happening, everybody? Time for another Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock show. As per usual, news is rolling in just as Eric and myself are about to start the show. And as you guys come in, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, shout out to BetMGM, who is sponsoring our show tonight. They've got a really cool graphic that I'm quite fond of. Really one of the cooler things I've ever seen in my entire life. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm lovely. I just, so I did the NBA strategy show this morning. I drove across California to Arizona here. I'm in Scottsdale for New Year's at my parents' spot. So excited to be kicking it in, getting a full betting card going with the exposure to all the BetMGM goodness. I'm pretty excited about that. Not just my typical prize picks or other things. So pretty excited kind of putting that together here, putting the finishing touches on it. But yeah, nice 6-hour drive. Just work, drive, work.
Wait a second.
The rest of the NBA.
Are you telling me it's possible to drive and work in the same day?
Yeah, it's crazy. Isn't it wild?
Oh,
yeah,
I've never heard of such things.
I don't know. I've heard some people can't do it, but
I've never heard of it. I've just never heard of such a thing before. We've got
Jordan Clyde's terrifying.
We've got an NBA show. I like it's jokes just for the three of us, but
it's all right.
Enjoy it quite a bit. By the way,
Adam is a good himself.
We've got unexpected news for today that just came in because Tyrese Halliburton, he was questionable. He's active. That's good to know. But the thing that's really surprising is that Kelly Oubre, who we had no expectation of playing today, he was listed as doubtful. He's all of a sudden been ruled in. So we're going to talk about some of these other injury scenarios. But with Kelly Oubre now in, how does that impact the other players on Charlotte?
No, I mean, it's not good. He goes from doubtful. Now he's in. That's very bad. How would it be anything other than that? It's a guy who notoriously likes to shoot a basketball. It's a guy who notoriously matters in terms of usage and fantasy point per minute rate. He goes from being out of the projections at a fantasy point per minute. Now he's going to be playing 30 plus minutes in. That's a problem. So any interest I had in trying to go to Terry Rozier is pretty much gone or pretty much non-existent. It is a 6-gamer. Maybe he falls through the cracks in a couple lineups, but for the most part, LaMelo Ball, too, just a tougher guy to get to now on this slate.
Yeah, I want to pull up some of the usage numbers. We very rarely do this because when do we get unexpected injury news where players ruled in all of a sudden? It doesn't happen all that often. Let's check out some of the on-off court numbers when we actually have Kelly Oubre on the court as opposed to off the court and see how it impacts some of the rates for these players. Because I'm rerunning lineups right now. I was getting to a bunch of LaMelo Ball. And I have a feeling I'm going to be getting to much less of him now that we have Kelly Oubre in there. Because like you said, this is a high usage guy that we now have to take into consideration. And I'm running these numbers right now.
Over under, shut up. Eric Lindquist have no idea how to react to news. I just reacted to news and I reacted perfectly. That's exactly what it is. Like Kelly Oubre makes everybody look worse. So shut up. How about that? Don't be an idiot.
Yeah, but what Eric is doing is he's conveniently set up his computer to lag a little bit, so he's more time to think about the news right now. I think that's what's going on. By the way,
I just turned the internet on. It should be good.
Is it him lagging, Jordan, or me? Okay, there we go.
I don't think it's me either, is it?
Yeah. Jordan? All right. So anyway, looking at some of these numbers, Kelly Oubre on the court this year for the Hornets, and it's just lower numbers across the board. LaMelo Ball, 25% usage rate, 44 fantasy points per 36 minutes. Then you got Terry Rozier. He has a 26% usage rate, 37.91 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. This went from a team that I was getting a bunch of exposure to, I mean, I'm going to have some of LaMelo Ball, but outside of him, there's not really anything appealing now.
Nope. I don't see a single thing that I really want to go out of my way to get. Again, if LaMelo Ball falls into some lineups, cool. If Terry Rozier falls into some lineups, cool. But there's no way any of them are priorities, where I think, as I was getting here, started making lineups, LaMelo Ball was popping up quite a lot for me.
And now let's talk through some of the other injury news. Tyrese Halliburton now being ruled active. So no real value opens up from the Indiana Pacers, but Tyrese Halliburton being in, I do think that is information that we should be bringing to you guys. But the other players that are currently listed as questionable, because we do still have key players that are on the injury report as of right now. The biggest one that I think could have the most impact, Jalen Brunson, he is listed as questionable. Malcolm Brogdon, another one who's questionable. Reggie Bullock, questionable. And on a 6-game slate, guys like Reggie Bullock, Malcolm Brogdon, they have a bigger impact than they would on a slate that was, say 10 or 11 games or something like that. But clearly the biggest name from a fantasy perspective is Jalen Brunson. And we've got a little bit of time here. This game is actually one of the later ones to lock on the slate. We don't have any West Coast games. They're starting at 10 or 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Latest game is an 8:30 p.m. Eastern time start. So Jalen Brunson being questionable. First, Eric, do you have a lean on whether he's going to be in or out today?
I lean towards him being in, but that's just a lean. Just because, he was on the sidelines. He warmed up. It was one of those things, I think, against Dallas where he was pretty close to playing. I imagine he's pretty close to playing here too, but either way, with all of the games, this is obviously something that matters big time, only having 2 games in the later window, if you will, just because it's 8 p.m. Eastern time and 8:30 p.m. Eastern time that we kind of have to be reacting to. But I assume he's going to be playing, but it doesn't really change the fact that I have interest in pretty much everybody on this basketball team, because RJ Barrett is 40 minutes that you have to repair. That's some usage. That's, a decent fantasy point per minute rate. He's been right around 0.94 on the season. So yeah, I'm going to have interest still in Emmanuel Quickly, who's crazy, crazy popular. No question about that. Julius Randle. The thing is, Miles McBride, I won't want to play in any way, shape, or form with that 0.64 fantasy point per minute rate if Jalen Brunson's in, but automatically jumps to the top of somebody I want to be forcing in at 3,200 to get more exposure to Luka and such in the event that you get him ruled out. So yeah, I'm leaning on him being active, but how about you?
I'm leaning towards him being active as well. The reason, though, is just because of the way the Knicks handle their rotations, right? This is a team where Tom Thibodeau runs his stars into the ground. He's the type of guy who a lot of teams in the regular season, if a player's like 75%, they'll say, hey, we live to fight another day. Let's make sure you're full health. Not the Knicks, not the Raptors. These are a couple teams that are like, hey, we run our dudes into the ground in the regular season. So I tend to think that Brunson is going to play. And that, to me, makes him a really strong option at fairly low ownership. Projected for 6% right now on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's projected for 6% as well at 7,700. Brunson's played really well when he's been on the court as of late. And he's a really good pivot off of Emmanuel Quickly. Not to say you can't play both of these guys, but in tournaments, I think there's a really good chance that Brunson has a really big game and could take away some shots from Quickly. So I'm hoping Brunson plays. I currently have him in, and he's one of my more rostered spend-up options. So I do like getting to Brunson. If he plays, do you imagine he'll be in your lineups?
Absolutely. He would become one of my highest owned players instantly. You get the Q tag, you get that bump. Projects out really, really well going up against San Antonio. I can't imagine there's a scenario where I wouldn't try to jam him if he's in.
Yeah, we're on the same page with that one. We just got a super chat that came in, and we'll talk about the implications of Fred VanVleet being ruled out for the Raptors. But my fill arc, Wood plus Mitchell Robinson, or the Claw plus Ivica Zubac, or other variation of these 4 that you prefer. Of this group, I prefer Kawhi Leonard and Ivica Zubac.
Oh, I love you so much. Those are like my 2 favorite tournament plays on today's slate. I got to do the strategy show with my good friend Terry McBride here this morning. That was a lot of fun, and talked about Ivica Zubac. He was going to come around 4, 5, 6%, as Jesse likes to say on Twitter, Mr. Forsaken. Giga giga minutes coming in for Ivica Zubac of late. Feel pretty good with Robert Williams and Al Horford out there. He's going to be playing some minutes. Sign me up for it.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely make a case for that. And the other thing too, I've mentioned this on a few shows lately when it comes to Kawhi Leonard. He's not quite the player he was pre-injury, but he's starting to get back to form. The minutes are coming up. And if you're just to ask me by the end of the season, what does he look like from a pricing perspective? I assume he's going to be much more expensive than he is right now. We've got Kawhi Leonard at $7,800 on DraftKings and projected for, let's see, what's the ownership on him? 8% ownership. But there's a lot of players, even at different salaries, the exact same ownerships on FanDuel compared to DraftKings today. Kawhi also 8% ownership on FanDuel, and that is at $8,200 price tag. So kind of similar to before when we were talking about Jalen Brunson. So I think Kawhi is a pretty good buy low player now, both in terms of low ownership and a low price tag, going a little bit overlooked.
I am so there with it. It's just somebody that is starting to play those bigger minutes. It just is a good investment on this slate.
And now let's talk about the implications of Fred VanVleet being out for the Toronto Raptors and the Raptors, another team that plays their starters ridiculous minutes to the point where, did you see what happened in the Raptors last game, Eric?
Sure did.
So they're trailing in that game by a lot of points. If I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
They're down 16 points with 2 minutes left. Pascal Siakam's at 40 minutes. OG Anunoby's at 42 minutes. And Nick Nurse has got these dudes on the court in a 16-point game with 2 minutes left until the final buzzer there. And as for the Raptors, what the rotations looked like. So Fred VanVleet gets hurt in that game. And then we see Siakam mentioned for 41 minutes for him, 37 minutes for Scotty Barnes, 44 minutes for OG Anunoby. And the primary benefactor off the bench, Malachi Flynn, got up to 26 minutes. So with that being the case, considering all the minutes that Flynn played last game, I'm a little surprised he isn't more popular today. He's projected for 0.1% ownership on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's projected for 0.8% ownership. What am I missing that nobody's playing Malachi Flynn, who is the guy who played all the minutes after Fred VanVleet got hurt?
He hasn't started. And I think that that's what people look for, is the simple quick fix. And it's uncomfortable when he's not going to be starting. But everything you just said is the reason that you want to be playing him. He's not as popular as he would be. He's somebody I'm going to be getting to a lot. So I'm glad that you're there with me.
Yeah. And once again, just to read out, he played 26 minutes last game. And that was a game where Fred VanVleet was healthy to start the game. He only played half. I mean, if we're just going to take the rotations from last game and think that it's something similar today, we could be looking at close to 30 minutes for Malachi Flynn. So this is somebody I think is going way overlooked by the field. My favorite contrarian tournament play on the slate. It's something you would say, Eric. I hope he doesn't start, because if he starts, people are just going to get there. If he doesn't start, it seems like people aren't going to play him.
I am of the exact same mind. I'm getting everything entered and making sure. Internet good? Internet better, Jordan Klein? Maybe.
Oh, double thumbs.
Oh,
by the way, there was just
so
an
happy.
ownership update, and I've been informed that Malachi Flynn is no longer 1% owned. Is that the case? Shit. Yeah. By the way, ownership update from 30 seconds ago. Malachi Flynn is now 21% owned on DraftKings, 18% on FanDuel. Still too low in my opinion. But I was looking at 1% and thinking that was the best play of the entire season based on the Raptors rotations from last game. By the way, if anybody has questions, throw them into the Discord channel. One of the perks of being a Stokastic Plus Platinum member is you get access to that Discord channel where you could ask us any question you want. NBA related. It could be life related. It could be related to what is it that you're doing with your wife and her boyfriend. We get those kind of questions as well. Eric, what else stands out from the Raptors with VanVleet being out?
Yeah, so Gary Trent has to enter the conversation. That's kind of the other guy that I wouldn't have a whole lot of interest in. I assume he ends up being the guy who starts, a guy who's routinely been a part of this starting squad and then just out of the middle of nowhere wasn't, and was in the doghouse. He's had 2 starts in the middle of the last month, but for the most part, he's been relegated to a bench role. I think he gets the start. He's just another guy who plays a lot of minutes for this basketball team, decent usage rate. I think we need to be playing a lot of him at 4,900. So that's the main beneficiary that I wouldn't have a ton of interest in if it weren't for Fred VanVleet being out, but everybody else just looks better. OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam. It's like the inverse of what just happened with Kelly Oubre. You had one piece of news that changed there. And now with Fred VanVleet being out for this team, it's kind of what we were expecting to have from Charlotte. So that's kind of the main takeaway there.
Today's show. Oh boy, do I get excited when I see this.
I'm not even looking at it. Thank God.
Today's show is sponsored by BetMGM, home of the best graphic in the world. Jordan, hold that bad boy up here.
Can't even see it.
When we talk about BetMGM, we get to look at the wonderful graphic. Did you see? Oh, and we got the best Photoshop yesterday. I should have sent this to Jordan.
No, you shouldn't have.
I think we need more fan submissions. I'm going to send this to him right now because we just have the best people who watch our show. So this was from Richard DeBecky on Twitter. I'm gonna screenshot this and send it to Jordan because for people who are in the know, we had that issue yesterday where Eric was having some bowel movement issues. He had the coffee, he wasn't mixing it right, and he was just basically shitting his pants the entire time. And the good thing is we had somebody
telling you that in confidence, chat. Telling you that in confidence.
Yeah, he announced it on the entire show to all of the audience in confidence so that nobody else would know.
You know what I mean?
And it led to this wonderful Photoshop by Richard that I just sent over to Jordan to make sure that he has it. And there we go. Jordan, if you could put that on the screen, it was just wonderful. So this is something that was a fallout of this BetMGM graphic that was made, but there's more to like about BetMGM, such as when you sign up, you get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum and a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 that you could use over at BetMGM. And by the way, we've got great tools that you could help to find the best winning bets over at BetMGM, like our new Bet Pro tool, which has every
You put it on the screen so I can't avoid it, Jordan? That is such a dick move.
Oh, no.
Put it in the Zoom screen.
You know what else would be a dick move that you should do, Jordan? The picture I just DM'd you should put that on the screen as well.
Legitimately.
Yeah, look at that. So this is
some people at our work just, ditch out on people and throw them under the bus, and other people just make fun of the person who steps up to the plate and constantly shows up and is here every single day. But I'm not going to say who that is. Come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is everything. This is the BetMGM graphic. This is your coffee situation all put into one. This is perfect. This is an amazing Photoshop by our guy, Richard.
Did you really slow fade into the slow jazz hands?
I want to make sure also that people really appreciate Richard Dubecki on Twitter. His handle at Dubecki88, Dubecki88. He tweeted this out yesterday. Wonderful Photoshop job for him. It's to the point where I'm not even sure it's a Photoshop. That might just be a real picture. That just may be Eric in his real life. Very possible. Very possible. Richard, we appreciate you. And we also appreciate BetMGM, who's the sponsor of today's show. So that's just good work all around. Eric, response.
If Jordan was a tool, what tool would he be? What kind of tool?
A producer. A damn good one.
Well, I'm a hammer. Okay.
Are you? Are you just somebody who
just sending out the band hammer? Coffee concentrate. I said it in confidence. Doesn't mean you have to pull it back out. Use it all the time on me. Whatever.
Are you using the coffee concentrate correctly now?
I am. Thank you so much for asking. It's important.
I hope you didn't use it incorrectly before your 6-hour car ride.
Duke and my wife, they're lucky people. Let me tell you, just lucky individuals, those two.
So something else also is that don't forget, we do have the Bet Pro tool now over at Stokastic.com. And it is a really easy way just to find some bets. So I'm going to just read off to you guys right now. This is the number one bet for BetMGM since they are the sponsor of today's show. And if you guys do check out the Bet Pro tool, you could sort it by individual sports books. So you can compare the different odds at the different books, find the best bets across all books entirely. But also, if you're somebody who just bets on DraftKings, you can sort by DraftKings bets, FanDuel, just FanDuel bets, and then BetMGM right now we have as our best bet of the day over at BetMGM as John Wall for over 3.5 assists, which I could get behind. John Wall over 3.5 assists. We have him projected for 4.5. It's also plus money on the over. So it's something else you can take advantage of. You sign up at BetMGM by using our promo, you get 2 free months, risk-free bet up to $1,000. And I think you could use your first risk-free bet, put it on John Wall over 3.5 assists at plus money. Let's get back to talking about the slate, Eric. And has anything changed? Malcolm Brogdon just ruled out. So let's talk about the implications of this. So Brogdon will not be playing. Who benefits from Boston now?
Yeah. So starting at the top, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're pretty unaffected. Like they're just going to be fantastic regardless. Maybe a tiny bit of bump, but Marcus Smart is somebody that makes some sense to be getting to a little bit more than normal. And Derek White at 4,500, even though that price is now starting to buoy back up, I think he makes sense. I doubt we need to try to mine anything out of Peyton Pritchard on this slate. So pretty clear cut that it's just going to be a little bit more Smart than I'm going to be going to, a little bit more Derek White, but not much else that I wasn't already getting to.
So what does make this tough is just Robert Williams being back in the mix for the Boston Celtics, because before, if there was players out for Boston, we would just anticipate they'd play a lot of smaller lineups. I like Robert Williams. The field also likes Robert Williams. I'm very, very tilted about what happened the other day. Played him a bunch on Christmas and he didn't get the minutes. And then of course he bounces back with the massive game last time out against the Houston Rockets. Robert Williams ownership. Here's another guy that's too low. Now, is this going to happen again? Am I going to say he's way too low owned and we're getting an ownership update 30 seconds later and he ends up being really popular? Robert Williams is 8% owned on DraftKings right now at a $4,300 price point. On FanDuel, he's projected for 16% ownership at $5,200. He's more expensive, but he's the power forward and the center eligibility. He should be more popular based on what he did last game, not just because he played really well, but because he actually played over 20 minutes. If you look at him last year as a guy who scored well over a fantasy point per minute, I think he's a really good value at $4,300 on DraftKings. Obviously a little bit less so at $5,200 on FanDuel, but power forward and center eligibility, so it's more spots we could play him in. Is Robert Williams somebody you're going to get to? The Brogdon news doesn't necessarily change anything with him for me, but I already liked him and I just still like him.
Yeah, I have one share. I just made 20 lineups. I'm just playing the $15 in DK today, and I have one share of him. I thought I was going to get to him a little bit more, but it seems as though because Zubats is just a little bit lower owned, and I trust the minutes more, I'm just going to be getting there, I think, a little bit more. If you told me you got to a little bit more Robert Williams, considering he's 4,300 and a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy, I don't really have a whole lot to say against that. But as it stands right now, just one share of him, and I don't know. Maybe something changes here, considering I did have Mason Plumlee exposure before, and that's kind of going by the wayside, even though just looking at center, it's kind of that whole 4 and 5K price tag that I thought I'd be getting to a little bit more, because we don't really have a center to be spending up for other than Pascal Siakam, who has power forward eligibility on DK today.
Yeah. So for me, and I thought this the other day too. I just feel once Robert Williams gets his minutes, they should not go back down. They should only continually start to rise. So he played 21 minutes last game. And if you were to ask me how many minutes he should play today, it should be 21 at a minimum, if not even 24 or 25.
See, this is where it gets really wonky, though, because I think we got to look at that Milwaukee game. There was a blowout towards the end of it that got a little bit wonky. And if you're trying to limit one person's minutes on the Celtics, if you're trying to take one person off the floor in a 20-minute game, you're taking Robert Williams off the floor. So if anything gets wonky here, if Robert Williams isn't one of the main culprits, you're probably looking at 15 minutes for him. So I think that what happens is there's just a more pronounced minutes floor for him, because in these extreme outlier games, which are going to happen a lot for Boston from time to time, they're just not going to run him out there. In competitive games, you want Robert Williams out there defensively, for 22, 24 minutes. I'd rather have that than, Al Horford for 30 at the center, but that's what life is at the moment. So I totally get your reasoning for why it makes sense. But I think for me, it's a 6-game slate. You kind of don't have to be completely perfect. Like, you don't need to hit the absolute nuts in every single regard and have the massive ceilings. Robert Williams can definitely be serviceable in even like 15, 16 minutes, but the floor is just more pronounced at this spot. I guess the ownership's low too, so it's maybe worth a little bit more of a dice roll. So I do get your logic, but I'm just not getting there right now.
Yeah, and we're just going to be on a little bit different sides of this, but
how much are you getting to?
He's in like half my lineups.
Oh,
but
my God.
I've been trying to play him a lot as of late, and I think that he's probably more likely to. I think he's more likely to play 25 minutes than he is to play less than 20 minutes. And if he plays 25 minutes, I think he really could just destroy the slate.
All right, yeah, I love Time Lord. I always have. I just. There's just something about it right now where, coming off of the injury, they have really had the bubble wrap on him in a pronounced way when things do get wonky. Not that I expect that. I bet the Clippers, they're like plus 235 right now. I thought that was decent enough value, but I love Arizona so much. But I'm just kind of looking at the board, and it just, I don't really find myself landing there as much. I have so much Pascal Siakam. He's by far going to be somebody that I'm getting to a ton. He has the center eligibility, but like center isn't a slam dunk windmill slam. I can play the power forwards over there a little bit. I really like getting to Alperen Şengün on this slate. He seems to be a mark, somebody that I'm always a little bit higher on than the field. And then Zubac's there at 5,200. I just have a ton of him. Like I have an absolute metric ton of him. And he's a little bit lower owned with a higher minutes ceiling than I think you're looking at from Robert Williams, given he's playing alongside Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You can make a case that that's almost the same as playing next to Tatum or Brown, but there's no disputing Robert Williams. If he gets more than 22 minutes, you're probably going to want him. But I think it's a very, very rare occasion where he gets there still.
I mean, he did it last game.
I said over, like we're talking 24-25. You said it's more likely he gets to 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I disagree with.
Yeah, I just think eventually he's going to start to have his minutes ramped up, and I'm going to keep projecting it that way because I want to be earlier to it rather than late. And what was annoying is last game, he just totally went off and it was a massive slate. So I didn't really have him there, but going to keep riding him today, especially if he's just going to be this
All
low.
right, I'll get him to 2 of 20 just for Greg. Just for Greg.
All right, there we go. Love to hear it. Super chat from Don Icewood. Who is the best utility player for $9,100 or under? 9,100 or under. That is. So I have Jaylen Brown projected the best, but I don't think he's a particularly great play today.
Same. I have one share of him.
Jaylen Brown is if it has to be somebody 9,100, the answer is Jaylen Brown.
Here's my answer. And it's obviously very dependent on if he plays or not. I'm just going to say Jalen Brunson because I think he's the best tournament play on the entire slate if he plays. And you can use a lot to enhance your lineup with 1,700 somewhere else. So do that. I like Jalen Brunson so damn much. I have him projected for one less fantasy point than Jaylen Brown at $1,700 difference.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, I'm getting to way more exposure to Brunson than I am to Brown. So if you have another spot that maybe you could upgrade or a player you don't like as much in your lineup, I would say play Jalen Brunson and then upgrade another spot and use that $1,700.
We got a weird starting lineup from the Hornets.
All right, the Hornets starters. Let's see what this is. Hornets starters just came across on Twitter. Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Washington, Plumlee. That's been their lineup most of the year.
Oubre's not starting.
He doesn't start when Hayward's healthy, though.
I thought he did.
No.
Why am I crazy?
Yes.
Kelly, I thought it was PJ Washington coming off the bench. It is PJ Washington who's come off the bench. Kelly Oubre started all but 4 games.
But that's because Gordon Hayward's been hurt.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe that's what it was. It was just like an oversight. I thought PJ Washington was just somebody who was getting like spot starts in times. I mean, he started the entire year. Never mind. I looked at my watch. Maybe it was just different looking at it on my watch than it was.
Here's been the issue. The Hornets have just infrequently been healthy. So the last few games, Oubre is not started.
Yeah, last 2. I looked at it for a second. And I was like, I thought Kelly Oubre was ruled in, and then didn't see him starting. And I didn't process it mainly because LaMelo Ball is the only piece that I've gotten to from the Hornets period for like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So what's happened with the Hornets this year is they have not, I think they've had 4 games all year where Rozier, Hayward, Ball, and Oubre have all been healthy, and Oubre's come off the bench in those games, but it's reasonable you would overlook that because it's only been 4 games the entire year.
I was just trying to, it just dropped, and hey, I'm happy to call out when I'm wrong. That was just a mistake and an oversight, but wanted to address it in the event that there was something going on with Oubre. But I feel a little bit better. I'll give myself a pass there then.
We do have we've got a fun starting lineup for the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're mentioning weird starting lineups.
Oh my God.
The Thunder, Jalen Williams goes from out of the rotation to starting. And people might be confused and say, Jalen Williams has been starting. Here's what's confusing. They have 2 players named Jalen Williams on their team, and they are both starting. They spell their names differently, though. So the starting lineup for this team, SGA, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams and Jalen Williams in the front court. How confusing is this going to be now?
I just tweeted out welcome to hell. Like I've been not looking forward to this day for a long time because they're 2 guys that at the beginning of the season, it was a little bit more of an issue. Now, Jalen Williams being on a two-way, the center version of Jalen Williams being on a two-way and playing with the G League made it a little bit cleaner, but they've proven over the last couple of years, they're just not going to start Mike Muscala. Like, they're just not. It was one of those things where I thought for sure that would just still be, hey, let's put Darius Bazley in there. But now let's have the Bazley conversation, because he's 3K flat. What, we're still playing him, right? Like, or does his ownership? No, I don't want to, if his ownership is going to be 40-50%.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying we'll see when the ownership updates, but he was projected for 32% ownership on DraftKings. Bazley was projected for 11% ownership on FanDuel. That's obviously way more reasonable of a salary. The 11%, let's see where the ownership goes, but I would much rather play Jalen Williams with a Y than I would play Darius Bazley. It's the dumbest thing ever. I don't know. How else do we differentiate them, though? What do we call them?
No, I mean, Mike Muscala is the backup center there now. And I was hoping, just in the heart of hearts, because he can go out and knock down a three-pointer. Like, I don't know if people know who this guy is. He can shoot the rock. It's just that he's so bad at everything else that you need to be good at to be a center in the NBA. I wanted to play him. I'm not going to anymore, so that's a bummer. But yeah, this Jalen with a Y is pretty interesting for tournaments now.
Yeah, and let's try to find, he has not played meaningful minutes. Do we look at his G League numbers at all?
I don't think it matters in any way, shape, or form. For me, it's like, does he play 15 minutes or does he play 28 minutes? Like,
well, here's the other thing. Even when this team is healthy, we don't know who the hell they're playing.
Exactly. This is just such a shit show. It's as bad as it gets.
So the other thing too is Bazley didn't even play that much last game.
No.
He was going to be here's what's kind of a bummer. He was going to be massively popular, and I was not going to play all that much of him because, and maybe he still will be really popular. So we saw Pokusevski devastatingly break his leg. I've never seen somebody break their leg on a non-contact injury, but that is what happened to Pokusevski. Breaks his leg, non-contact injury last game. Well, I saw him with Kevin Ware at Louisville in college. That was pretty ridiculous.
So bad.
But at least that he was jumping.
I was going to be at that game. Oh,
you were there?
No, I didn't. So my dad and I go to a lot of Final Fours like every other year. And Duke, that was the team I grew up cheering for and everything. They were playing Duke for that game. My dad and I couldn't coordinate it so that we could get to that game. We were both doing different things. And so I'm sitting there on my couch and just snap. I'm like, I am so glad I'm not there. Like, the Duke reaction to the bench is the thing I remember the most about that injury live. That was horrific.
I was watching, I was on spring break with my college roommates at the time. I don't think any of us wanted to get up off the couch for a little bit because, that could just happen. Your leg could just snap in half. But Pokusevski just running up the court breaks his leg in the last game. And that was going to make Darius Bazley a really popular play. And I didn't really think it was justified just from the standpoint of Bazley last game after Pokusevski got hurt. He only played 21 minutes in the game. Pokusevski only played 2. And Bazley is shit as far as a fantasy producer goes. So I thought that was a pretty weak chalk option. And now it looks like he's just not going to start. So that would probably get people off them. But Jalen Williams, I think Jalen with a Y, I think is a decent look as far as a value play goes. Let's see what we've gotten from him this year. So Jalen Williams.
Sorry to Jordan Klein. I didn't know I have Discord running on my computer. That might have slowed things down just a little bit. I only have like 14 Discords.
About a fantasy point per minute for Jalen Williams.
Yep.
Jalen wants it. Jay Williams.
This is so awful. Just makes me want to play more Zubats. And now maybe I play more Robert Williams or something there. Because I was playing Mike Muscala before. I thought he was going to start. He did not start.
So Jalen Williams, as could be expected, the flat min on both FanDuel and DraftKings. A little bit more appealing on DraftKings just because the minimum salary is $3K over there as opposed to the $3,500. Jalen Williams, one benefit that he does have on FanDuel at least is he has power forward eligibility, whereas Jalen Williams on DraftKings only has center eligibility. But the flat min 3K as a starter, I know that the rotations have been a disaster for OKC this year, but I like Jalen Williams as a punt play.
I'm on board with it. I kind of I don't know. I had a hiccup right in the middle that turned into a burp. And I tell you what, this is just getting all my ducks in a row here in Arizona. We're getting my ducks in a row.
Couple more super chats, and then I see we've got questions in the Discord channel. I'm going to answer those next. 8 game. What OKC players Eric locking in tonight?
Oh my God. None. 0.
He's trying to figure out who's going to break their leg. Is that what he's trying to find out?
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. I didn't lock in Pokusevski. I had more Pokusevski than I had Stokan, but that was the last slate. What?
My favorite play on OKC is Jalen Williams with a Y, but that doesn't mean I'm locking him in. Not by any means.
SGA is still my favorite.
I will have more exposure to Jalen Williams. Can't go wrong with SGA though. The next super chat we have is from my filler arc, Giddy or OG Anunoby. Pretty sure that's Anunoby for me.
Yeah, Anunoby's a smash. He's going to be very, very popular, but I don't really care. He makes all the sense in all the land today.
Played 44 minutes last game.
Is that good?
It's hard to get away from that. Is it good? Not for his long-term health. Is it good for us in DFS today? Yes.
Oh man, Nick Nurse and Tom Thibodeau trying to just end the lives of men. Like they're just running them into the ground.
By the way, is Jordan gone? Are we still on the air?
Oh, Jordan just left.
Right.
Why did you just leave?
Oh my God. He has to,
I don't know. Did you have coffee concentrate?
Yeah, he has
you let me know.
Yeah, he has to make like that picture that you're in. That's Jordan.
Okay, he's got to go. Sorry. I left. Sorry. I'm back. Sorry.
Welcome back, Jordan.
Oh,
he's gone. Oh, no, he's back.
Now he's back. Okay. I see how we're
Discord
doing
questions. We've got some coming in here. Sorry, guys, that it took me a minute to get to these, but we had just news that kept coming in. We've got first from Steve G. Would you play Quickly and Brunson in the same lineup? Yes, I will be doing. Assuming Brunson plays, I will certainly be doing that in lineups.
I think the problem is people are correlating Jalen Brunson being out with Emmanuel Quickly being a good play. RJ Barrett and his 44 minutes are gone. Don't forget that. That is a gigantic deal. It brings a lot of these Knicks into play regardless of anything. Now, the one play I don't want to play at 17%, if Jalen Brunson is in, is Miles McBride. I will have 0 of him. In the event Jalen Brunson is out, I will actually be playing some. That is the only guy that I'm paying attention to. Otherwise, everybody else on this roster that's remotely playable, that being the starting 5, is going to be somebody that I'm going to have exposure to.
The next question that we have here is from T. Lee. Can you double check this NBA Wowie? I took Brogdon over the first 2 months for an understanding, and Jaylen Brown is the biggest winner, or at around 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So let me go look at the Boston Celtics.
What happens to actual work? How dare you?
What happens to them when Malcolm Brogdon is off the court? He just wants us to explain it to him. What happens here? So, so part of it is that Jalen Brown's already a really good fantasy player. In terms of the actual boost he gets, it's pretty minimal. He scores 1 more fantasy point per 36 minutes than he normally does. It's just that he's already a really good fantasy producer. It's actually not really that big of a difference for Jaylen Brown.
That's what I said before. I said they're pretty unaffected. They're still good plays. You put in the rates, copy, paste, boom, you're done. And I would recommend, if you want to save yourself some time, if you know there's going to be pieces of news like that, have it kind of on the waiting in the wings. Because then all you have to do is just go boom, boom, like have a spreadsheet or have a folder where you like favorite it on, your iPhoto or whatever the hell. Like just make sure you can quickly pull it up. Cause like, you don't want to always have to go double check and go through the motions of doing it. Now, sometimes on shows, we just have to do it for being able to do it more quickly and be able to keep up to date with a lot of the information. But like, if you know something like that is going to be waiting in the wings, already have it pulled up and like, just able to copy paste all of the rates and like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, unaffected, Derek White getting to a little bit more.
Way too many Jalen's on this slate.
A lot of
everybody's
Jalen. So, yeah, everybody's got JAY on this slate, and it's killing me.
Cream wants to know who's our favorite pay up option on DraftKings besides Luka.
Pascal Siakam, not close.
Siakam as well. And then also, if Jalen Brunson is considered a pay up option, he would also fit the bill.
Jalen Brunson will be my highest owned player if he plays.
MJazz24. What is the best way to set lineups with Brunson in them with swappability to Luka later? Eric mentioned it. Just curious for FanDuel. Yeah. So for starters, the fact that Luka plays after Brunson really does make it quite a bit easier. But the other thing too is ideally, and this is going to be a little bit tough to know, but I have a lot of Raptors exposure right now, and I'm hoping we get the Jalen Brunson news prior to 7:30 Eastern time.
And even if we don't, I'm just playing a lot of Julius Randle too. And there's a pretty easy swap with about 3 or 4 of those Knicks pieces. I'm getting to about 3 Knicks in just about every lineup. I'm playing under the assumption Jalen Brunson is playing. Obviously, if he's not, there's going to be some kind of compromises I have to make, but we have guys in that guard range like Jalen Green. I don't think it's apocalyptic if I have to play Jalen Green at a guard spot later on. I don't think it's apocalyptic if I land on Kevin Porter Jr., even though I don't really want him. I think I'll have to just get to a little bit by default just for $300 more, but I'm just going under the assumption Brunson's in because I think he's that good of a play compared to what his ownership will be if we get that news later.
The next question we have in our Discord chat is from Mr. Sledge to you. Which backup center do you prefer, Mark Williams or Mike Muscala? Neither of them really, but Muscala if I had to pick one.
Yeah, Muscala if I had, and I'm not going to play either of them anymore. I wanted it to be Muscala starting. I thought it was pretty... I don't even know what I thought. I thought Muscala was going to start for some reason, even though I know that they hate to let that man start at playing basketball games. He's had 1 start all season long. He had 0 starts all of last season, even though there were times where he was playing 17, 20 minutes off the bench. It's just a front court where he's never going to get it, apparently.
The next question we have is from Ernie P. Ernie P35 wants to know, why does it feel like I only have quickly Brunson, Raptors, and Cavs tonight on DraftKings? Well, I'm kind of surprised you're getting to a lot of Cavs, right? I think Jared Allen's a good play. I think Harrison Levert isn't a bad option. But I think the reason you're getting to those guys is because they're mostly the best options right now.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. They're the best options. Be very careful because again, if you're the same thing is happening to you, that's happening to me, that's happening to anybody who's in cruncher there. Cleveland have a lot of pieces that are underpriced, but if Jalen Brunson doesn't play, the Knicks are way, way better plays across the board than what you're looking at from Cleveland. I'm under the assumption Brunson does play. So obviously I've preloaded my lineups that way. And I think that we could still look at some San Antonio where we could still land on a couple of those players. And it's not apocalyptic if you land on some Sohan or Pirtle or whomever else from the San Antonio side to fill in some salary bumps here or there to fill in for McBride or Quentin Grimes, actually a guy that I would still be getting to in the event that Brunson sits. But I think there's just a lot of ways that the slate unfolds where the Knicks are the most pivotal part.
We just got word that Reggie Bullock has been ruled out due to an illness. With this being a 6-game slate, any players you're willing to take a stab on from the Mavericks? No Reggie Bullock for the team. He has been playing, substantial role for them as of late.
Yeah, it kind of shifted because if you remember last year at the beginning of the year, Jason Kidd had him in the doghouse. Everybody was asking him, why aren't you playing him more? He goes, well, he's not listening to me. And all he really does is shoot threes. And we don't really necessarily need that. He went back into the doghouse. Then he was starting and he's been playing upwards of 35 minutes. Once in a while, he gets hot from 3. And that is kind of what it is. Unfortunately, Kemba Walker sitting there at 5,700 and backing up more Luka. If you were cheaper, that would be kind of a guy I'd have exposure to. But I got to imagine that it's kind of an all hands on deck where everybody gets a little bit more. Tim Hardaway Jr., Davis Bertans, Ntilikina, Pinson probably plays a couple more minutes, but none of them are going to be appealing from a fantasy perspective. I still like Luka. I've always liked Spencer Dinwiddie in tournaments today at 6,600. I think that he's somebody that you want to be getting a little bit more exposure to than what the field is currently at 5.6%, just because of what we've seen from those minutes of late. And against a bad team like Houston, Luka has kind of deferred and let Spencer Dinwiddie and Christian Wood do some of the damage in a couple of spots the last few games. We all just saw what Luka did. So I'm still getting to Wood and Dinwiddie. That wasn't going to change, but nothing that really stands out as a result of Reggie Bullock being out.
Fair enough. And once again, we'll see what ends up happening with Jalen Brunson. That could be a spot that ends up opening up a bunch of value later. A couple super chats we just got. One is from Shane Daly. You can't cope with the Oakland stroke. Barnes or Anunoby for the last man, and I prefer OG Anunoby.
OG Anunoby probably is the answer for everything for me. He's the best chalk piece we have right now.
Devin Davis, Jalen Williams, Jalen with a Y, Jalen Williams with a Y, and Josh Giddey, or Gary Trent and Jabari Smith on DK, or should I need to reevaluate my life? We need to reevaluate your grammar for starts, but I am going to say Jalen Williams and Josh Giddey.
Country grandma going down, baby.
I like Gary Trent. It's just not a slate where I'm really playing Jabari Smith.
Gary Trent's my guy. Gary Trent, I have a ton of today.
What about Jabari Smith, though?
I know that sucks, but so reevaluate your life. There you go. Somebody had to say it.
I'm going to say Williams and Giddey. By the way, I don't think Jabari Smith is unplayable. He's just somebody who I found better options to today.
I just don't ever land on Giddey on these slates. Like, I can't remember the last slate that I just haven't gotten into a lot of him of late. It's really, really weird. And there's been some slates, maybe it's just like weekends, but I feel like I've dodged a lot of bullets where Giddey was really, really popular. We're talking about a quarter of lineups that have him right now. I just don't have him projected that high. Like, I've got 10%, so 2 of my 20. I don't really see a reason that I want to get more than that.
Got some more questions to answer in the Discord channel. And by the way, if you guys want to check out all the tools we have over at Stokastic.com, 3-day free trial for all of our NBA tools, player projections, ownership projections, our new lineup generator, the easiest way to make a bunch of lineups in a hurry. Let's say that you're like Eric. You had a bunch of coffee concentrate. You had to take a massive shit. You missed our show. You didn't have time to really build your lineups. Good news. You just head on over to the lineup generator. You click a couple buttons. It builds 20 for you. It shows you all the different exposures of your players, and you could export them right from there up to FanDuel, DraftKings, and enter your lineups. So that's a really neat new tool that we have over there. And it comes with the Stokastic Plus Platinum membership that you get 3 days free for by clicking on the link below or clicking on the link that's about to go into the YouTube chat. Some more questions that we have in Discord. This one is from Miami High Life. Top 3 pay-up players on DraftKings for tournaments. So depending what we're setting as the bar for pay-ups, it is Luka, Brunson, and Siakam for me.
Let me pull it up here. Yeah, Quickly is not in your top 3 highest owned.
He's not a pay-up option.
Oh, pay-up option. See, I'm such a dipshit. I'm not listening. That is definitely going to be Luka 1 for me. I think it's pretty easy. Pascal Siakam 2, SGA 3.
Okay. Was in you of more SGA than Brunson? Or you're just not considering Brunson a pay-up?
Oh, I'm not considering him a pay-up option.
Okay.
7,400. I'm not considering that.
Yeah,
he's my highest owned player as of right now.
I just have enough of him where I wanted to give him as an answer for there.
Fair.
So
I love the shout out for it. We're on the same page today with that.
I'm going to consider him a pay-up option, but
that's nice.
Reasonable people could differ. Jets World wants to know if Brunson is in. Rank Brunson, Quickly, and Grimes as far as priorities in the 5-5-5 on DK. Brunson 1, Quickly 2, Grimes 3.
Perfect.
The next question.
How much Malachi Flynn did you end up with?
I'm uploading lineups right now. He is in about half my lineups.
Okay. I have him at 45%. I wanted to make sure I wasn't way off base with that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you are at all. And refresh to see where the ownership is at now. See if anything has changed. Because
I'm not playing Miles McBride right now, and the field seems to be, and I'm just going to play more Malachi Flynn early on and hope they get burned by that. That'd be awesome.
22% Malachi Flynn on DraftKings, 16% on FanDuel. As for starting lineups, we don't have one yet for the Toronto Raptors. I think there's a pretty good chance that he ends up starting. We've got the starting lineups for all the 7 p.m. games. Nothing weird other than Jalen Williams and Jalen Williams starting the front court for OKC.
I think it's Gary Trent for what it's worth. Not that it matters all that much because we'll have the time. I have very, very little of this first wave of games compared to what it seems the field does. I have Cleveland. I definitely have some of that, but Indiana's so unappealing at these current prices and on this slate. Charlotte's so unappealing on this slate and at these prices. OKC, we're taking our certain shots, and Cleveland is underpriced and just going to be over popular, just a little too popular for my liking. So we should be able to react to that news pretty simply the way we're building.
Yeah, I do think that Gary Trent probably enters the starting lineup. He's not started in the last couple of games, but Juancho Hernan-Gomez is going to be in the starting. Well, I assume Juancho Hernan-Gomez is going to be in the starting lineup, but they've kind of handled his minutes really weird. There's been games where I've played Hernan Gomez at really low ownership and he's played 40 minutes and it still hasn't really gone all that well.
Yeah, he's a movie star now, baby. He's a movie star.
Yeah, that is true. Friends with Adam Sandler, but he's not somebody I'm really playing today. Did you end up playing any of Hernan Gomez?
No, I have 0. I'm making 20 lineups. If I made more, let me see if I'll make 150 and let you know.
The next question that we got is from Ernie P. He's saying, do we still like PJ Washington on DK? No,
I have 0.
So I would have liked PJ Washington if Kelly Oubre was still out. And even though Washington starts over Oubre, the issue is that there's still less minutes for Washington and less usage as well, because there inevitably becomes minutes where he shares with Kelly Oubre, and Oubre is a fairly high usage guy. So makes Washington less appealing. And for a 6-game slate, we have a pretty good amount of options, especially in that mid-range.
Yes, we do.
Super chat from the Claw 28, best shooting guard on DraftKings, $5,900 and under. And he says, thanks. All right, $5,900 and under at shooting guard, though. 59.
Quentin Grimes is not the right answer. Not at the moment. It is if Jalen Brunson's out.
So it's actually Tim Hardaway Jr. for me with with Reggie Bullock being out. I do think it gives a couple of extra minutes to Tim Hardaway, and it at least makes him, of that price range, the guy that I think should project the best.
Yeah, I if Brunson's out, go McBride, or it's not McBride, go Quentin Grimes over him. But as of right now, sure, I'll go with that one. I don't really have a strong lean 5K above up to that range.
So that will be the answer there, $5,900 and under. I'm going with Tim Hardaway. My filler arc, just to shout out Boucher, Toronto. He's not even adding that as context, just saying Boucher, Toronto.
I wish. It's never going to happen, buddy. They hate him. They just hate him.
It's funny, for the longest time, people were like, why don't they give Boucher, when the Raptors were no good, why don't they give Boucher playing time and give one of their young guys a run? Do you know how old Chris Boucher is?
100 years old. I don't know. 22, based on what you just said.
Who's
he
older?
Could also be older.
EMac or Chris Boucher?
Oh, man, that's so good. You tell me. I don't know.
Okay, EMac's a little bit older. So Chris Boucher is 30 and EMac is 127. So EMac wins out, but Chris Boucher older than what most people think.
I would agree with that. I thought he was actually older. You were leading the witness is what you were doing. I thought you were going to come with like some surprise knowledge.
No, he's just old as shit.
Just old as shit. Cool. Good talk.
All right, let's go through. Did you upload your lineups, by the way?
1 second, because Jalen Smith keeps falling through the cracks, and I do not want Jalen Smith today.
Fair.
So I'm removing from pool. There we go.
Don Icewood is saying we missed his super chat.
Sorry.
I think we did answer this one, but I'll answer it again. He wants to know best utility player for $4,100 or under on DraftKings. I know, because I remember saying the name Don Icewood before, but best utility player for under 4,100. I'll answer it again. Scrolling through the players, $4,100 and under. That is Malachi Flynn for me. If you already have Malachi Flynn, then it is Kevin Love for me.
Kevin Love would be the answer, and I don't like it. I don't have a lot of people sub 4K today.
Kevin Love over Malachi Flynn?
Oh, no, not over Malachi Flynn. Sorry. I thought you said not Malachi Flynn.
No, I said Malachi Flynn, but if he already has Malachi Flynn, Kevin.
There's what I didn't hear. There you go. And I'm uploaded. There we go. I've resumed living.
I try to give people multiple answers, because I've noticed a lot of times that we'll answer somebody and they'll be like, I already have them. So I think
it's like not named, but then they've done a pretty good job lately of being like not named whomever, and then you're fine. But
JEW, any guys that we would consider must plays from the 7 p.m. games on DraftKings for single entry? For single entry, no. I don't think there's anybody that you must play. My favorite players, who am I getting the most exposure to from the 7 p.m. games? All right, so the players I have the most of are Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, and Jalen Williams, and then Kevin Love as a lower owned punt play.
Yeah, Jarrett Allen, SGA, Kevin Love. Those are my 3 highest in order, and I have no more than 20% of any of them.
None that I would consider a must play.
Correct. Yep.
Let's see, are there any other questions in here? And I know that we're rapidly approaching lock. And all right, we answered everybody's questions. So hopefully you guys all got your lineups in. Just making sure I didn't miss any super chats, scrolling through these really quick. We did get to all of them. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did not do it, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also stick around. We've got NFL Live Before Lock coming up just a little bit after us. Thursday Night Football, one of the final ones of the year.